Okay, looks like we are live and have such a special guest here today. I've been looking forward to this since we talked about it. She comes to us with so much expertise, and so I wanted to bring her on and talk about a few topics that's important, not just right now, but especially overall. And so I want to introduce to you my good friend Ellie Ortiz. So Ellie, welcome.
Hi, Leo. Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this. This is so nice of you.
Yeah, no, I I enjoy this, and I enjoy, having people like you come on because you guys have so much value and expertise to bring to everybody, and would love to just kind of talk through some things. But first of all, the most important thing is tell us about you and how you got into the business and what is the business.
Okay, so hi, everybody. My name is Ellie Ortiz, and I have the business is Laguna Legal, and it's a legal document service. So we're not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice, but we are bonded and certified and able to help the public with preparation of legal documents. So it's a separate license, and that license went into effect in January 1st of 2000. And on that date, the legislation passed a rule that paralegals could no longer help the public. They can only work under the supervision of an attorney. So now legal document assistants are allowed to work directly for the public and prepare legal documents, but of course, without giving legal advice. So I always tell everyone we're something in between a legal Zoom and a law office. Because with LegalZoom, you don't get really the personal attention. You're dealing with a different person every time you call in, and it's not a lot of people that we deal with start paperwork on LegalZoom and they do it wrong and they get stuck. And then a law office is just expensive, and sometimes you need it. And we would be the first ones to tell you if you do need an attorney to give you legal advice. But if you don't, we're the in-between solution. So it's a nice niche market for us.
Right. At the end of the day, it's a lot like us realtors too. You need the personal touch because everybody has a different situation, a circumstance that need to do something a little different and be sensitive to people's needs. I think a lot of times companies, like you mentioned, could be LegalZoom that want to give really cheap service but offer no service because they're trying to automate everything. And it's just really difficult to automate people's lives. You can't really do that. Everybody is so different and very personalized. And so, dealing with a company like you where you can kind of just handhold them and say, this is how this works. This is what's the best way. These are, your best options and things like that to give, to give them exactly what they need and not have to be running around dealing with different people. They tell you something different. Everybody you talk to tell you something different. You're confused, doesn't get done right, you're not sure. So it's very, very needed.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Yeah. So we love it. We love doing, I've been doing this since 1998, and it's wonderful. I love what I do. And I have two really great employees that work with me at the office, and they're wonderful. So one is Pat Herman, and one is Ali Amiri, and they help me a lot, especially through this time where we've had such a difficult time with this pandemic and the coronavirus. And my husband has some underlying health issues that have kept me really grounded, and I've had to stay at home with him. So they've been a blessing. And of course, now with technology, it's like I'm at the office even when I'm at home. So I'm able to work from here.
Yeah, that's great. Well, prayers to your husband that everything goes well and he recovers quickly. I do want to talk about some of the pandemic things that you're experiencing, but before we do that, I just know you personally, and I know that you had lived in Spain for some time. And can you tell us, some of your where did you grow up? How long have you been in California? How long did you live in Spain? Kind of give us a little bit of background, like your personal life and how you ended up, here in Orange County, and how you ended up, creating and running this this legal company?
Okay. So I grew up in Cerritos, which is right on the border of LA County and Orange County. So I very close to Orange County. So I grew up there and then moved to Fountain Valley in my teenage years. And then from there to Mission Viejo. And then I met my husband and we got married here in Orange County. So he had a dream. He was always telling me stories about how when he was younger, he had gone to Spain and he has family there and just loved it so much. Used to tell me so many wonderful stories about that time. And so because of that, our kids were young at the time, so we were able to get up and go to Spain. So we took them out of school and moved to Spain and lived there for 3 years. And that was a really great experience. We have 3 children altogether, 2 that were with us in Spain and 1 that was traveling back and forth every summer. So that's my husband's son. And so he would come out and we would do all, just it was just a wonderful time. It really was. I can't even describe it. Spain's been hit really hard by this pandemic. And we've had a lot of family members, friends that have been affected really strongly. So that's been really difficult for us. And also my husband has family in Italy. So they were also in northern Italy, northern Spain and northern Italy. And so they were both affected. So it's been tough to watch the news and talk to them and see and because of that, I think is why we're on such a full lockdown, is because he's just hearing all the horror stories from other places that we've been very lucky that they haven't affected us here as much as they have in other countries. But
yeah, you guys must have got all the inside stories because you guys have direct communication over there to exactly what's going on with the people that are living there, and not just through the news or something like that, right?
Yeah. So we have been.
So we're blessed. We're blessed to be here, and I think with the infrastructure that we have here, we still are very safe. Our numbers are still very low, and our infrastructure with the hospitals and things like that are still good. Although we had some issues with thinking about short supplies, but it really hasn't hit a point where it's complete breakdown or anything like that. So we're lucky that way. But that's it's sad to hear, but I think they're coming out of it now in Spain and in Italy. So they actually were hit earlier than we did. So they served as examples for us. So we're grateful for that, and I think May is going to be our month for us to come out. To kind of like get start to get a good grasp on it, and start to see that, hey, the numbers are not going up, at least stable, or hopefully they're going down, and start thinking about how to reconnect back to our regular working lives. So how is the pandemic for you guys as far as business concerned? I know the different type of businesses have seen a huge surge, and then other businesses, for obvious reasons, have just completely shut down, and they're not getting any income. So how is it for you guys' business?
Well, we're very lucky that we were considered an essential business, so we weren't shut down. How it's affected us we deal with a lot of government agencies, and so the county recorder's office is still open. They're closed to the public, but they're allowing documents to be mailed in, so we're able to still process and get all of our documents recorded, which we do a lot of. The courts, we do a lot of divorce filing and other actions. Those are completely closed. So they're allowing e-filing, so we're able to still e-file, but they're not getting processed. So everything is kind of just, we submit, and then it sits on hold, and we don't know when that hold is going to be lifted. So we have, that's been a little bit of an issue. I'm sure once they get it open, then it'll be backdated to the day that we initially submitted. And then the Secretary of State, we set up a lot of corporations, and luckily the Secretary of State is still processing. So we haven't been affected too harshly as far as from a being able to do our business standpoint. We get a lot of calls for divorce mediation. We do a lot of divorces and we mediate them. So we're not attorneys, but we've gotten a lot of calls from clients that are going, they're having a really hard time just being confined in the home together, and they're having some issues. Of course, a lot of people come together during this time, but some don't. And we've been able to initiate those filings, but like I said, they haven't been actually filed, which is a blessing, I think, for them, because they're still in the same house and they're still in quarantine together.
That's a hot topic, isn't it? Because with people, if the relationship is going well, they get better during this time. Relationships are not going well, they get worse during this time. So it brings out the best and then it brings out the worst. So hopefully more better than worse, but you probably have a better visibility that you're getting more clients from divorces, or it's about the same?
No, we've had calls and inquiries, a lot more inquiries, but not necessarily a lot less filings. So people are not ready to pull the trigger. The only few have been ready to pull the trigger. Most are just inquiring for a later date. What we have had a lot of is living trusts. A lot of clients have called our office. I think it's, partly you're watching the news and you're seeing that everyone's getting sick. And so that's like, and it's always been on people's to-do list to update their living trust or to prepare a living trust, but it's just always on the bottom of the list. It's not one of those things that they really want to deal with. And it bubbled up to the very top of the list through this pandemic, where a lot of people who had called throughout the months and asking questions, but had never really moved forward, did move forward and started initiating that paperwork. So that's been, it's nice to be able to help people with that when they need it. It's something that everybody needs regardless of the pandemic. So it's nice that we've been able to help them, and that's kept us busy working on living trusts.
Great. Absolutely. I mean, that's a great point. That's exactly, why I asked that question. I wanted to know, what the activities are because of pandemic. And so that's a good point. And all of you guys watching, if, there's no time better than now to get your living trust, taken care of, it's kind of a wake-up call for everybody. So, if you didn't, if you needed a living trust, which a lot of people still do, they should, contact you and get that taken care of.
Yeah.
Great.
And then another thing we've had a lot of is corporations. And I think that has a lot to do with the PPP loans and all the different loans that are all the different aid and that's out there with the CARES Act. So a lot of people that have been putting off setting up corporations or have contacted us to set up corporations. That was a surprise to me. I was surprised that so many people wanted to set up corporations in a pandemic, but I think they realized that if they had more corporations, maybe they could have applied for more aid. So that we have a CPA in our office, and he's been very busy meeting with clients and giving them tax advice, and then we do the paperwork and he does the tax advice for them.
Yeah, great point. Because that's one of the other things I wanted to kind of ask you and go over with. Do you have some ways to, some process that you have to help people with their property tax assessment? As as people are planning to either move or transfer their real estate, so that they make sure that they don't get hit with the taxes, right?
Yeah, we get a lot of referrals from escrow companies and title companies to prepare deeds, and realtors as well to prepare deeds for their clients. Let's say if they want to sell a house and they want to put their spouse on title, we'll prepare an interspousal transfer deed. That's there's certain deeds that you can prepare so that there isn't a tax reassessment. But sometimes when family members are transferring to each other, or there is two cousins that are transferring to each other or wanting to add on title, those are instances where there would be an increase in property taxes if it's not done correctly. So we always code it, and sometimes it's a multi-step process to make sure that the proper, if possible, that the property taxes don't get reassessed. So we always do our best to make sure that they don't.
And so mostly if you're transferring deeds to a family member or something like that, that shouldn't incur assessment unless, I mean, what are some of the
No, but if two siblings want to transfer to each other, that would incur, even though they're interfamily, but that would incur a reassessment. So you can't do that. But parent-child transfers are exempt. So if two siblings want to transfer to each other, then our suggestion is, why don't you transfer first to your parents and then have your parents transfer to your brother? Then that saves the reassessment, which is sometimes, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars a year that their property taxes increase. Or another option is sometimes if they're two totally unrelated parties, if they go on title together at the same time, then they become joint tenants on the property together. And then after that goes through the process, then the first party can come off. And then that's another way to avoid reassessment of having the property taxes increase. So there's, you know, little ways to do it that take a little longer. It's not immediate, but a lot of times people don't realize, so they just go down to the county recorder's office and they think that they can just fill out a grant deed and they put gift on it. And then by putting gift on it, yes, it gets recorded, but that is not, you're waiving the documentary transfer tax, but you're not waiving the tax reassessment. So, and then they get a nice surprise in the mail when they get a new tax bill, and you know, it's a big mess. So we're also able to go back and correct those. So if anyone that's listening has done that, where they've gotten reassessed, call our office and we'll be able to do a corrective deed in most cases, as long as the original grantor is still able to sign. We can do a corrective deed and get that fixed for you. So that's something we deal with a lot of.
Okay, so of course better to do it upfront, you know, but it sounds like if it's an immediate, what qualifies generally if it's immediate family or something like that. And
yeah,
like,
parent-child is the only, parent-child and grandparent-child are the only exemptions.
I see.
And husbands and wives, that's an exemption also.
So if you have a situation where you're trying to do that, you just want to make sure it gets cleared, maybe ask you guys how it should be done or hire you guys to do it. That way you can avoid any headaches on the back end.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And so now I know we hate to talk about this, but divorces, your recommendation is that if anybody is really thinking about it, just give you a call and start the initial conversation about how that goes rather than just go straight to the lawyer?
Yeah, well, it's always best to try to mediate. And there are cases where people call us and they say, oh, there's no way my spouse is going to go for mediation. But you never know until you try. And it's worth the gamble. If it, you know, it's the process, we charge $500 a month to do, to help someone through the divorce process, and mediation is included in that price. And so if we can try the mediation, and if it doesn't work, then you can always go to the attorneys and spend, you know, the $20, $30, $40, $50,000 per side that it's going to cost to go through a litigation. So for the, you know, for a few $1,000s to try mediation, which we have a 99% success rate. So I always encourage everyone, please try mediation first. If it works, you'll be so happy you did. And if it doesn't work, then you haven't really lost anything other than, you know, you've lost a little bit of money, but at least you've tried. There's a greater chance that it'll work than it won't. So.
Great. Well, so if that's something that they want to go through and it doesn't sound like it's a contentious situation, then the recommendation is start with somebody like you guys who do that kind of stuff, and it would save a lot more money because I know the lawyers will always have like an upfront retainer, you know, whatever it is, starts with 2,500. I mean, everybody's different. It could be like 2,500, 5,000 to just.
I have a client that her initial retainer was quoted was $50,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it all depends on how much assets there are, and that's how they determine
Right.
the retainer, because there's going to be more to do.
Right. So in that case, hiring somebody like you guys for, let's just say, take that one for example, then if there isn't any real big conflict or anything like that, to just do the paperwork and get everything done. I mean, it would cost a lot less, right? Like it would be, a few $1,000s or.
Yeah, 3,500. On average, it's about $3,500 because it's a 7-month process to go through divorce, and $500 a month for 7 months is 3,500. But that's for both sides. So if you're splitting that, that's $1,750 a side, because it's not just one person hiring the mediator. We're helping both people together.
Okay. What are other common services that you see a whole lot of that you do deal with that people may not know about?
We do a lot of different services. We do name changes. If someone wants to change their name, we assist with, gosh, I'm trying to think. There's so many things. We do real estate. We do a lot of real estate documents, promissory note and deed of trust, seller carryback documents, things that are when you're in escrow. If the seller is going to carry some of the loan, then we'll prepare those documents. Escrow doesn't prepare those documents; they just record them for the parties. So we do a lot of real estate documents, which is why I'm a member of the Orange County Realtors, the Laguna Board of Realtors, California Escrow Association, Orange County Escrow Association. So a lot of real estate related items. And ultimately, our goal is, even with the divorces and everything else, is to get everything settled quickly so that the property can be sold. So a lot of realtors end up sending us clients because they know that it's not going to be 2 years. It's going to be a few months, and then they'll be able to get the property on the market.
Right. Plus, there's we also see a lot of common things with probate, that kind of thing. So
we do help with probate. But the probate that we help with is if all the family members are in agreement, we will do the paperwork to get you through the process, but it still could be a 1.5-year process, even with everyone in agreement. So if there's any kind of animosity or litigation between the siblings or the family members, then we work with a lot of different attorneys. And so we'll refer those to a probate attorney to be able to help them with that. If it's a different matter other than just paperwork. If it's paperwork, then they can represent themselves at the hearing.
Sure. And the reason it takes so long, even just to do the regular paperwork without the conflicts, is why?
Because what happens is that first the probate petition gets filed, and then there needs to be a hearing. Sometimes it's 3 months before there's a hearing. And then at that hearing, the judge will say, okay, everything's uncontested, so they'll order they'll make the order that this person is going to be the executor of the estate or the administrator. At that point, we can do a deed, and we can get the property on the market. But the court wants them to come back a year later to do the final accounting of how everything was distributed. And so if you don't do all of those final accountings and everything, we had one client that had ended up with a warrant out, a bench warrant, because she didn't go back to court. This was before, she was doing it on her own, but she called us when that happened, when she got that notice that there was a bench warrant issued. So we always, when we start something, we want to do it all the way to the very end until there's a discharge. We don't want it to be just something that's started and then leave it halfway.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's all good things to know in case anybody is maybe having that situation come up, so that they know at least what kind of time frame we're talking about, and why does it take that long with the the courts and judges and appearances and things like that, plus all the people, right?
Yeah.
And so you guys obviously would guide people through that so that it's least amount of pain, and all this stuff is painful
Yeah.
as possible. So great.
Well, that's why it's so important to have a living trust, because if you have a living trust, getting the living trust is the first step, but then funding the living trust because a lot of people will get a living trust, but then they'll forget to put their bank accounts in the living trust, or they'll forget to put their house in the living trust, or they refinance and they take it out of the trust and they don't put it back in. All of those things cause probate. So you want to avoid probate. So you want to really just have everything always be in the name of the trust.
Yeah, good point. Everybody's got to stay on top of it. If you don't put it in the trust, then it doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ellie, thank you so much. This is all super useful information. We talked a lot about trusts, of course, and we talked a lot about property tax, where you can save money. So you're saving the long probate process. If you get your living trust taken care of properly, you save on your tax assessment, as long as you file it properly and you qualify for a deferral of the assessment. And then also, of course, the divorce. We all need savings on that. You know, our divorce rate is so high here in Orange County, you know, so
Yeah.
at least 50+%. So at least 1 out of 2 people has got to deal with it, right, at some point. So, so you are a saving grace for that. So thank you so much for coming on and informing people. If anybody has any questions regarding any of those things or anything that she might have mentioned, just go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'm sure we'll see it after the live, and we can help you address it, or you can reach out to Ellie directly as well. I'll have all of her contact information, and she'll also tell us to us well. But per our show tradition, our guest always has a quote that they want to share with everybody, and Ellie has an amazing quote to share with you. So go ahead, Ellie.
Okay. So this is a quote that we have on our website. Get to know us, and hopefully you'll let us get to know you.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on and letting us getting to know you, Ellie, and tell us how everybody can find more information about you and your company, and how to kind of get in touch with you.
Okay, so the telephone number is area code 949-497-9800. And we have our website, which is Laguna-legal.com. And there's a lot of information on the website. And then we also have a Facebook page, which I'm sure is tagged in this live, but if not, we'll put it in there. But it's Laguna Legal Document and Mediation Services on Facebook.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much. Everyone, we're going to close this out, but if you like what we're doing, if you like what I'm sharing here, bring the guests on to try to bring you more information, more inspiration, more things that you guys can use, at least while we're still in the shutdown, have a little more time.
Thank you so much, Leo. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so I'm here every day at 5 p.m. I'll bring you more guests to come on. Tomorrow I will see you at 5. So have a good night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. And thank you, Ellie, again. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Leo.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.